Recording started. There we go. So, welcome everyone to another CMX Connect virtual lunch for community pros. Thank you all for joining. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Hugo, and I am a chapter lead for CMX in Hamburg. I'm a community builder as well, focused on founder communities and especially communities with a focus on climate. If it's your first time attending, which I know Joanna is not, I don't think Susanna I've ever seen you, but the concept is super simple, right? So it's 1 hour, very casual, interactive discussions. We aim to bring community builders and thought leaders together to just foster dynamic exchanges, learn from one another's journey, wins and learnings, and really just have a conversation and create an opportunity for each of us to learn from one another. So today's conversation, I'm really happy to have Nicola Earle here with us, and we titled this "Building Purpose-Driven Communities" because that has seen to be a red thread in Nicola's journey. She's been building communities for scale-ups and startup for the past 6 years, and she's currently in the midst of launching a community for people experiencing menopause, so-called Menoplan. She's she's very much still leveraging those skills, but a communication and marketing expert. And on the side, she's also helping to build Led by Community, which is more and more becoming a visible player in the ecosystem. So the agenda for today is really to talk to Nicola about her story, about her journey that led her to focus on community building. Also touch on the valuable lessons she's learned along the way, and get her views in general about the state of this world that we're in. So the state of community in 2023, where's the industry going, the profession in general. And like I said, I think we can keep this very open and interactive. So here's my spiel. Without further ado, Nicola, so happy to have you join us.
Thank you. Thanks, Hugo.
And by the way, fun fact, so Nicola is actually the one who grouped a bunch of us community builders out in Germany together. So after attending Community Rebellion in Prague, there was this thread created for community builders that attended, myself not included, but then it became this kind of chat room for community builders in Germany, created by Nicola, who is not in Germany. So that's just it's a testament to your community building abilities. You know, you just create these pockets of like-minded people, and then the flowers bloom.
Exactly. I spotted that you could all join together and have some benefit in knowing each other, so I wanted to bring you together.
The fairy godmother.
Love that.
So enough about me, but tell us a bit maybe about you. And I mentioned your background in marketing and your journey to community, but like in your own words, perhaps take us back. You know, where did you start your career and what got you into the community world?
Yeah, sure. My first kind of comms marketing role was doing internal comms, employee engagement, which now I look back on it, I think actually, yes, that is community building. And now you often see people refer to it as internal communities. So yes, I was building an intranet on SharePoint and creating content and bringing people together around events, bringing people together around company values. So yes, I did. That was my kind of first foray. But I think I was always a natural community builder. I was the person, I was working for a big corporate, but I was always the person who would put my hand up for, we've got this volunteering thing with the charity, who wants to help run this? You know, I was always that kind of person, sitting on diversity panels, you know, trying to get more women. It was a building company, so kind of sitting on the women and diversity panel. So yeah, I think it was just a very natural part of my personality and skill set to do community. And then my first official community role was at a taxi app, where I was the community manager for taxi drivers. And that was very much a generalist role. And now with all this talk about community everywhere, I can, you know, that role really was a community everywhere role. I was managing lots of different channels, and really it was about getting the drivers to engage with the brand and kind of do what we wanted them to do, which was take rides, but kind of managing all these different methods and channels and events and things like that. Yeah, after that, so that was sort of, I went from big corporate to a scale up. So the big corporate was 15,000 employees, one of, something like that. And then to a kind of couple of hundred employee environment. And that was my first kind of tech role. And I really fell in love with tech at that point. I was like, this is so fun. It's fast paced. It's creative. You can do these projects and watch all this data come in, and you kind of, everything's instant. And loved it, and really wanted to try for my next role a smaller startup. I just had a hunch that I'd enjoy working in a smaller team, something with even more kind of creative freedom, where they're kind of really experimenting with things in an early stage. And that took me on to RoleShare, which sadly has closed now, but that was a job share platform, and that was, a small group of us really kind of doing everything. Again, super generalist role, even though officially it was a community role, but doing a bit of everything there. And then again, absolutely loved the small team startup environment. So now I've gone completely the other end of the scale. So like being one of 15,000, I'm now employee number one at a company which is all about menopause. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
And I'm curious before we get into menoplan, because I'm interested to learn about that. But what's the biggest difference you saw, let's say, in comparing the big company with 15,000 employees and then working at more smaller, nimble organizations in the tech world? Like when it comes to implementing a community strategy, can you tell us a little what you saw there?
Yeah, I mean, exactly the thing you touched on, the nimble point. It's the speed at which things happen. And you can imagine at a big company, there's this huge sign-off process. Everything has to follow very specific brand guidelines, tone of voice guidelines. There's not, there are options to be kind of creative, but not quite so much. And then when you're in a much smaller company, it's that kind of classic fail fast kind of environment, but there's such a willingness just to let's just give it a go. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can really lose that perfectionism and have fun and experiment a lot more. Obviously you need to be smart with it, but yeah.
Cool. And so tell us a bit about your latest project, which when did you start there? And employee number one is a community builder. That seems quite interesting. So I'm assuming that's very high up on the vision, of how they want to build this. So curious to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a slightly unusual kind of business model to start with, but super interesting. I started at the end of August, so I guess I've been there 2 months now. But the founder set it up with the intention of what she saw the problem was that there's lots of stuff out there on menopause, which is great, but there's also a lot of misinformation, and there has been for years now. I think it's the same everywhere, not just in the UK. I've kind of spoken to people in different countries and done a bit of research, but the culture has very much been women don't talk about it. We're not really taught about it. There's been, that kind of GPs even aren't necessarily, or doctors, educated on it massively. They don't, like, it's not a compulsory thing that they have to learn about. It's an optional thing. So it's just sort of been brushed under the carpet for years. And whilst there's some brilliant experts out there talking about it, it's only in the past few years that lots of celebrities who are now becoming of menopausal age are feeling that they can really talk out about this. So there's this real kind of upward trend of people talking about it, people finding out about it. And she really wanted people to be able to have one place where they could find everything they needed and know they could trust it. So the fitness element, the mindfulness element, the health advice from a trusted GP, the nutritional advice, really wanted people to come to one space and say, okay, I know I can trust this company and what they're saying. So yeah, that's the vision. We're working with different experts in all of those areas to kind of create the content and build the community itself. And then there's another element, and this will be launched next year, but the founder, her expertise is in food and catering. And she's going to be kind of creating a meal kit element to it as well as a community. And then the community platform is where I was brought in to build out all of that. So yeah, that's where we're at with it now.
Very cool. Can you tell us a little bit about the foundation that you're laying? So from an operational side of community building, right? Like what kind of stack are you using? What kind of, are you still at the strategy and design phase, or are you actually rolled out?
Yeah, sure.
Side of it.
Yeah, the platform had already been decided before I was brought on. The platform had been chosen and it's Hivebright. So I've been educating myself and learning how to become a Hivebright Pro. Getting there, it's a great platform. There's a lot of granularity around, and there's lots of different features and tons of settings on the back end with visibility and who can do what. And then there's kind of a big memberships element as well. But yes, we are at the stage now where we have people in, had them in for about a week. And these are family and friends that we've let in, we've kind of encouraged them and lured them over. We started off by creating a Facebook group, actually, to get that this was right day dot. The very first day, actually, that I started the role, the founder said to me, "Oh, I set up a Facebook group last week. Do you want to just, get a load of people into that?" I was like, "Oh, great. Okay." So started doing that, and we've been chatting to them in there, and mostly it's friends and family, people we know, and then they've invited their friends and families. So it's about 140. And I've been using them as my group to find out what they want to know about menopause, where the information gaps are, how they might like to use how they use the internet, things like that. And we've got 60 of them in there now. But we'll be closing those free memberships for them actually this week, because we'll be launching it as a paid community in a couple of more weeks. So we need to close that down so we can start testing. But yeah, in terms of operations, at the moment, Hivebright is quite fixed, but I mean, all platforms are, you've all managed platforms, but there's lots of options to add lots of content. So it's populated with lots of lovely contents. There's lots of information in there for people. And then it also has a forum functionality, a group functionality, events functionality, and then something I'll be bringing in at the beginning of next year, which is one of my actually, it's as a result of Led by Community and something I did in the summer, the Personal Brand Challenge. The workshopping concept for communities is one of my favorite concepts to kind of get engagement going, and that will be something I'll be bringing in the new year. So there'll be courses essentially that people can join to support them on their menopause journey.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so so I guess you kind of answered this, Nicola, but I guess I just wanted to understand. So your job is sort of building, especially using your like content and marketing background. You're helping to build all the information in Hivebright. Are you writing these articles like yourself, or are you asking potential members, or like how are you adding the community element to that part, if you are? And then the second part of my question was, are you using that Facebook group kind of as your minimum viable community? So you're like testing stuff, and then you'll eventually try to move those people into Hivebright, and then also take the info that they gave you and also incorporate that in. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, pretty much. I'll the first one around the content. We are working with some experts to make sure that the content is factually correct, especially as it's a medical topic. We've been really clear with the way I've written things, and in the guidelines and things like that, that we want to make sure that people are free to share their opinions on things and their experiences. But when it comes to us providing information, it's important that it comes from an expert. So we hopefully soon, we've got some GPs on board. We're just kind of going through the motions with that. We've got an amazing nutritionist on board who's designed the kind of nutrition guidelines and also created recipes recipes for us. And then we'll be looking to work with other experts in kind of fitness and wellness, mindfulness or mental health in the future as well. So a lot of that is some of it's, most of it's been written by experts, so it's trusted information. And then in terms of the members creating things, it's much more kind of encouraging them to share things in a way that they would on social media. So there's a section for stories where they can share their menopause story and journey, but it will be kind of more like a kind of forum functionality where they can ask a question about something like, is this symptom normal? And every piece of content in there, so this is a functionality within Hivebright, you can comment on as a member. And I've encouraged, at the bottom of everything, I've done a call to action. Oh, have you experienced this symptom? What was your experience of it? So yeah, really trying to just get them to share their story. And then in your second question, which was the group, yes. So yes, they essentially they are an MVP group for now. I will close that group down because I don't want people to keep joining that and then have that to manage. We want people to be in the platform and talking in the platform. So I've made it very clear to them in all the comms that we've been putting in there that we will be closing that group down probably around the end of the year, and encouraging them all over to the platform instead. Cool. Although we will have brand pages as well to manage.
Okay, cool. And is Menoplan, is it like an app overall, or like what exactly is the structure of the company?
Yes. Do you mean in terms of kind of how the brand sits?
Yeah. So like people who join Menoplan, are they like, is everything in, actually I have never used Hivebright, so I don't totally know how it works, but is Menoplan like an app in and of itself, or is it a website and then you join the website and then like,
yes. Yeah. Yes. So Hivebright, you can either have it as desktop website or you can have an app. We're in the process of applying for the app. It takes a lot longer, and there's a lot of technical questions that Google and Apple want to know. It's quite fiddly. So in the process of that, so we will have an app. I think that's going to be much easier that people have it there on their phone. Currently, they've all signed up via the desktop application, but they're mostly using their mobile phones to do it. It's mobile compatible, the web version, but it doesn't look as nice as it would once you got the app version. And then obviously you can send people push notifications and things like that, which really helps with engagement. Okay, cool. Yeah, I used to work with Palta, and they created like the Simple app and the Flow app. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those. They're yeah, and I mean, everything that we did was built in-house. So I was just curious how you would do it with Hivebright, but yeah, very cool. It's interesting to hear what you're doing, because I came in when it was already sort of built out. So it's great to hear how you started it from, or you're starting it from the ground up. Ah, nice. Yeah, super interesting. I've been looking at Flow as an example. As well as there's a couple of other apps out there, which they tend to be more symptom trackers. They're not really bringing people together to talk and support each other. They're providing people with information or symptom trackers, which is great. But I want to really kind of get events going and get workshopping going and really kind of get people helping each other and making friends in there and supporting each other. One thing I found quite early on from the Facebook group, from when I had chats with people, did a few one-on-ones, was that it can be a really lonely experience because it's so different for every woman. So you might start at 35 or you might start at 48. So the chance of going through the same thing as your friends or people is quite slim. There's also nearly 50 symptoms. So again, you might have a combination of a couple and your friends will have very different ones. And some people experience the symptoms for a year, some for 10 years, some really extreme, others barely even notice that they have any of these symptoms. So it's just wildly different, and people were feeling quite lonely and isolated because their friends would seemingly be kind of going about having life was normal for them, whereas they were experiencing these really quite debilitating symptoms that were stopping them going about their day-to-day life, but didn't have anyone to talk to about it. So I think that's obviously community can really support and bring them together around those symptoms and challenges that they're having. Yeah, definitely. I can see that being very, very useful.
So I put a question in the chat, but I'll just ask it. Like it's a little technical, but the model, is it that you have a open site, let's say, with that draws in people, where you share value and content, and people learn about Menoplan, and then you offer the possibility to join a closed community for a fee? Or is it a fully closed group that you have to pay to even get content and to unlock the interactions with other members?
Yeah, there is that flexibility on Hivebright that you can make things public or you can make them restricted so people can only see it when they're paid. Again, you've got real granularity on every little piece of content you're creating in there. The idea is that most of it is going to be locked down for people to pay. However, I want to make sure we're providing lots of good information as well on our social channels. Social's going to play a huge part in this, of course. It's like, you know, especially with the audience, people are going to be quite active on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. So just want to make sure we are providing some nice educational stuff as well, so that it's, you know, people can still take something away from it, even if they can't afford the membership. It will be £10 a month or £100 a year. So it's not, you know, it's reasonable, but of course it doesn't mean, yeah, it kind of is only for people who can afford a subscription like that.
I see. You, feel free, by the way, if you have questions, to jump in or put them in the chat for us to ask them later. But one thing you did mention, and I'm curious, it's a little switching gear, but you mentioned the personal brand challenge that you did, and I think I saw you on LinkedIn do some video tidbits also. So tell us a bit more about that. You said you found it really useful, so I'm curious to hear. I don't know what it is, so
yeah, sure. Well, when I was job hunting this summer, and that's when I started helping out with Led by Community a bit more. I think the first call I did, Hugo, was you, Ilka, and Francisco, and we all had a chat. I decided it was just a casual meetup. There was no kind of real theme. It was just a chat between us. And after that, I got chatting to Francisco a little bit more. We realized we had quite a lot in common with similar age kids. He actually lives like 40 minutes away from me, not that far. And then he said, do you want to help out with some things? And I said, yes. And at the time, because I was job hunting, I was thinking a lot about my personal brand on LinkedIn, obviously trying to attract employers. And I knew about the concept of workshopping through Mighty Networks, and I'd done one of their, again, I think it was an event on workshopping, and they have this amazing guide. If you guys haven't seen it, actually, I'll share it around afterwards, but they call it 500 Quests, but it's all these different ideas of ways you can bring members together around the goal of the community, through either a challenge that lasts a week, a couple of weeks. It's full of brilliant ideas. It's so useful. So that was fresh on my mind, and I was doing the personal brand stuff, and I thought, why don't I see if there's a group of people on Led by Community who want to come on this personal brand journey with me, figure out our strategy together, figure out our content plans, have a go together, help each other write posts or check each other's posts, and just help each other fight through that cringe and press post on things. And then, yeah, I mentioned the idea to Francisco, who's always like super enthusiastic. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it a course. So I ended up making a course that lasted 4 weeks, and that was called the Personal Brand Challenge for Community Pros. I created some content that unlocked each week around themes of copywriting, strategy, things like that. I tried to make it really bite-sized because I was spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, and there's so much advice, so many good posts, and you save them with good intention of going back and looking at them again. But this was so much content. I really tried to kind of consolidate the best bits, because you see the same stuff after a while, it's the same over and over. So I really tried to kind of consolidate the best bits. But yeah, we have 50 people sign up and join our private Slack channel just for the challenge. And we had once a week, we had a call, and there were kind of 16 core people who came to the call every week, and we discussed how we were getting on and what, really kind of give each other that moral support. And it just went really well. I think by the end, most people were posting. Some people, you know, really appreciated having the moral support, and people kind of give them a bit of a nudge. And then that's when I thought, wow, this workshopping stuff's great, because we'd all kind of really just made friends throughout this, and we all stay in touch now. And that kind of really helped, you know, led by community, have that little kind of bubble of enthusiasm and active members. And I actually joined another community where I did a LinkedIn post on this, but it's a community run by a stylist called Katie, who's amazing. I'll share her link as well. And I don't know if you guys know Laura Zug. Do you know Laura Zug? But she had tagged me in on this workshop Katie was running in her community. And I thought, sounds quite fun. It's just about style. And she just did an exemplary job of workshopping. This was a week. She ran it over a week instead of 4 weeks. And every day there was a 1-hour workshop on finding your style. But it was kind of, it's not just about style. It's about connecting with yourself and the energy you have for yourself. And again, she just did this amazing thing where had little challenges to do every day, and we would share them. She runs it on Heartbeat, and we were sharing the challenges in Heartbeat. And again, you know, those people now, those of us who did that challenge, we're all still in there chatting to each other. You know, we made friends over the course of that week. I just love the concept of it. So I'm excited to do some for menopausal women now. I've got loads of ideas.
So I got it. Oh, go ahead, Karina. I see you unmuted yourself, please.
I can't. Can you hear?
No, the mic.
Yeah, you're on green, but we can't hear you.
Yeah. Are being posted in the chat, but I also cannot hear you. I also see you on green, but somehow. One thing, Nicola, I wanted to say is that during that time. Oh wait, sorry.
She's gonna come back in.
I wanted to say that I did notice like an increase in your output on LinkedIn, and I really much enjoyed your content. And I would say like, and I'm not just like an up to, to you or anything. I'm just like I truly actually enjoyed it. So I would encourage you, like, if you can continue posting. I felt like this was also thought like it was engaging nicely, but like just for me personally, I never shared it, but I really enjoyed what you were posting. So I think sometimes, you know, people don't post just for the wrong reasons. Like I think we need to let it fly a little more, right? Like trust the fact that we might have some good ideas, and so yeah. Look.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. I think consistency is, 100% something I struggle with on a start. You know, you start a job and suddenly you're really busy, and I think, right, I've got to sit down and do that LinkedIn stuff. I've actually just created yesterday a Trello board, which is a good tip that one of the Heather who took part in the challenge, she came up with using a Trello board where you can have the kind of Kanban style, and you can chuck all your ideas for posts. You can have one that's work in progress where you're writing them up, and then once they're done, they can go into another column, which I think is a great idea. So I've just set one up to sort of get myself back on a roll with it, because yeah, like you said, I think you think, oh, there's lots of people posting about community or any topic. I mean, lots of people talking, but actually, yeah, I mean, everybody's opinion matters, and everybody comes at it with a different perspective. And you have to remember also on LinkedIn, only 1% of people are creating stuff. So it's also just great for you personally to just keep yourself visible on there, just for the future, because who knows what the future holds.
So consistency, finding your voice, I guess niching down on the specific topics that you want to talk about. Do you have any other advice for aspiring content creators?
Yeah, niching down was something we discussed a lot, because I think the advice is to find your niche, and a lot of us were struggling, because I personally feel like I'm a bit of a generalist. I think there's some things I'm starting to, find now that I enjoy talking about. Like we discussed the kind of mission-led things. Obviously, I'm quite into sustainability and things like that as well. So I think I don't think it doesn't need to be perfect. I think that's the best advice I could give, is don't panic about it having to be perfect or consistent. Remember, most people aren't going to know that you didn't post 3 days a week at 10 a.m. They're just going to see your name coming up there. So whether it's you commenting on things, that's also a really great thing to do, is to just be out there commenting on other people's posts. But yeah, don't panic too much about it being perfect. Just kind of keep going with it. And as the more you use your voice and you post, the more you start to kind of learn what you're interested in talking about, what people react well to.
Well, that's good. Karina, we see you, but
Yes, I think we can hear you.
Yes, is it working?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for bearing with me. I've been having trouble with my sound and my mic since I joined the call, actually. I just have maybe it's going to be a random question. What I hear in your story, Nicola, it's about, a strong campaign and strong team behind a community platform, right? So you're talking about experts, bringing in people who can add knowledge to your platform, engaging members from the beginning. Maybe you or somebody else in the call has experience facing internal adoption of a platform? What I mean with this is, for example, the platform that I'm a community manager for has faced quite a lot of resistance, internal resistance from the company, actually, to work with other teams. So, for example, I try to engage with the marketing team so we can share content so they can become more active, but I'm facing quite a lot of resistance about the platform and the purpose of the platform. Maybe it's aligned. I think the reason might be the alignment of the goals, the internal goals that we as a company have. Will you have any advice about how to engage with stakeholders so they can also see the value of your community, so that you can attract them, engage them? I know that this is a long process, perhaps. It's a new platform, the one that I am managing. So it's taken some time for people to understand how it works and why. And it takes a lot of my energy to do this. While I'm trying to start a community, right? So I feel like I have two different positions at the same time. Have you ever had this situation in any of the communities you have managed, that you're facing a lot of resistance from the teams or from the company itself?
Yeah, definitely. I can relate, certainly from my time when I was running the taxi driver app, but I see this challenge that you're facing come up so often in lots of the communities I'm part of, and people discussing it. And I think it's super common, because I think people don't understand what community is, or what you're trying to do, or what the benefits are to them. I think it's good to relate to them what the benefits could be to their department. So, for example, if it's, with sales, discuss to them what kind of benefits a community can mean for sales, how you can find new customers through a community, how you can identify that, and agree together some kind of plan or form of communication with each other. Say, okay, well, let's check in once a week via email with some data, or just kind of communicate with people. I would identify someone from each department and put in a monthly call, or whatever you can manage within your diary, so that you're starting to, they build up that trust with you and the community. And another good one is to send something round to those key stakeholders, perhaps a weekly newsletter, or fortnightly, or even monthly, because it's a lot of work putting those things together, I know. But to make them aware of what you're doing, make it visible, share any kind of key data points that you have, what the wins could be, and create a plan with each of them so that they feel that they're bought in. So again, with the marketing team, you can speak to them and tell them about all this user-generated content that can be possible, and that can be shared on the socials and things like that. That would be my advice around it.
Thank you. It is a constant challenge. So, and I feel like that's kind of like blocking a lot of the processes and a lot of the plans that I've had for the platform. So instead of trying to come up with my own strategy for what I want for it, I'm going a little bit backwards at the moment and trying to fix the foundation of the platform, right? So what is it for? What kind of people? Who do we need on board? So it really helps that you share that it's actually very common. I feel kind of like
Yeah.
kind of alone in this process.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the most common challenge that I see other community people post about is not having that buy-in from the whole company, or people not really understanding what community is. And I think it kind of has to be our job to educate them, really, and shout about what all the great benefits could be. Another good tip is to go for the low-hanging fruit first. So pick who do you think is going to be easiest to work with and get a few quick wins, because that will make you feel good about it, but it will also make the rest of the company feel good about it and start to build that trust with you. So yeah, try and think about which ones you could implement quite quickly and easily, and which people seem more amenable to the idea of you doing things with them, and then tackle the harder ones a little further down the line. Don't do it, and don't try and do it all at once, because like you said, it's such a, you're so busy with the community anyway. Just strategically pick everybody from the business and then work your way through them all.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing you mentioned is you're part of several communities of communities, right? So I think I saw you on Talkbase, CMX, led by community. You're actually actively involved there. So maybe that leads me to my next question. So when it comes to the state of community, the kind of interest around the very concept of community building in the, let's say, in the tech world at large, how do you read the tea leaves at the moment? Are you seeing kind of an upswing of community as a, if not business model, as a business strategy? What's your outlook on 2024, let's say, and the state of the profession at the moment?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think none of us are US based, are we? But obviously in the US, it's a lot more established, and there are a lot more jobs, and people have been talking about it a lot longer. In fact, when you go into, I only started joining some of these community builders maybe a year and a half ago. And considering I'd actually been doing community for ages, I don't know what, thinking back, I don't know why I didn't join them, but I think I just didn't think they were for me, or didn't really understand it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, definitely kind of in the UK and Europe, for us to talk about it and educate people. I know people talk about there being that there was a big uptick when there was COVID, because everybody flocked online and wanted to group with people, and then lots of money was spent on it. And that's why now we're seeing, once we've come out the other side of COVID, that's why we're seeing kind of layoffs or communities closing down and things like that. But actually, community has been around since the birth of the internet. I mean, talking about online communities, community in general has been around since the birth of humans. But I don't think it's going away. I think it's just kind of waves and trends. I do think the community everywhere topic that everyone is everywhere and everyone is talking about is really important, and it's going to be really important for what I'm doing at Menoplan. Social and community, they're really going to be like that, where everything's going to be totally interlinked. And I'm sure there will be people who will be followers on Instagram and talking on Instagram who'll feel that they're part of the community, but they're not actually in the paying platform. That's something I'm going to be super mindful of. I think when it comes to when it comes to things like product communities and communities for businesses as a sort of business strategy, I think there's still so much opportunity, and people are really still kind of starting to understand how it can run and kind of really support business strategy. And then something like Menoplan, that's actually, community is the business strategy in itself, a paid membership community. And I think when it comes to paid membership communities, again, I do think social media, the news, it's always becoming more and more noisy and negative, and you don't know what you can and can't trust. And again, I think there's this huge opportunity for online community platforms to come in and provide that safe space away from the noise, where people can trust and can meet other people who are going to be like-minded. They know they're in a safe space and they're not going to get horrible comments and things like that. So again, I do think, I mean, it's interesting because of all of my friends, hardly any of them are using online communities for things. And I'll say to them, go and find some professional communities for what you're doing. You'll find it's great, or for a hobby you have or something like that. And a couple of them are, and they're really seeing the value. They're saying, oh, this is really good. Like, I'm meeting people. So I mean, considering that only a tiny percentage of my friends even actually really understand about community, I think we have a lot more educating that we could do and kind of try and get people involved. I think there's a big opportunity.
And that reminds me, you're working on a community that is not online, if I understand correctly. One of your sustainability from your local area. Can you expand on that project and what it is and what's your vision for it?
Yeah, sure. So this was inspired a couple of years back when I went to an Earth Day march in a town in Suffolk. I live in Norfolk, if anyone knows the UK. And I was handed this flyer, and this group was called Transition Woodbridge, and they seemed super cool. They were doing all this nice stuff for their community, organising things that were helping the planet, but helping the community as well. And I thought, right, when I moved to the countryside, which was a life goal at the time, I'm going to do the same thing. And I want my kids to know that I did something about trying to save the planet, and role model to them as well. That's why it's important to me. So yeah, we moved to the countryside about a year ago after living in or near London for about 15 years. And I still had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to set up this group. And my husband's very like-minded. His job is actually in environment. So yeah, we just got in touch with the parish council. We said, this is our intention. We'd like to get something up and running. We put an ad in the village magazine, kind of explaining what it was. And we had 7 volunteers. There's 9 of us. We've had our first meeting and we just agreed what it was we wanted to work on. So we've agreed that we're going to encourage sustainable living in the village and support people with how to kind of better plan for more adverse weather conditions and things like that. So we wanted to make it about the people and the planet as well. And we've put together a list of about 15 ideas, which we've now sent to the parish council, and but next time they have a meeting, they'll go through the ideas and come back to us. So it's not going to be the fast pace that I love. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be very slow paced, because you have to do everything through the parish council, and they only meet once a month, and then they have to come back to you, and then we're going to have to meet and do it. But that's fine. I think it's it feels good to be doing something, and it was a nice way to meet people. And I'm sure some great things are going to come out of it over the next year.
I think I need that. I need to unplug sometimes and find myself a local, local community, not online community, and just actually see people in the flesh and build something around a common cause. Like, sometimes I feel that my life is so digital. I'm a extraterrestrial when I go to the baker and get like, I feel so disconnected from the everyday life of my neighbors.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You can have this whole life online and this whole persona and be doing all of these things, and then you put your phone down and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, explaining community building to my baker again, he's like, I don't think he would get it. Like, always try to. That's the tech world for you. One question I ask everybody that comes on is a little bit like what are your favorite source of community knowledge and the thought leaders that inspire you? Can you share some that you follow and you like open every newsletter of, or that you have on notification?
Yeah, definitely. I think Rosie Sherry, super inspiring. I love the way that her content doesn't always provide you with a neatly packaged answer or solution, but it's making you think things through, challenging the way you approach things, challenging the way we all approach things. And she's super open source and no ego and just putting stuff out there. So her content has a big influence on me. I really enjoy Laura Zug's content in terms of she's really good at kind of articulating examples and scenarios of kind of community building and giving good ideas for things like onboarding or she's great at stuff like that. I really like April McLean's content as well. Again, her newsletter's always really well written and gives you that kind of slight mindset shift around some of the stuff you're doing and gives you some of those aha moments where you think, okay, yeah, maybe I need to do something slightly differently. Yes, I will find them. If I send, well, we could make some kind of group after and I'll send you the links. Because if I try and find them now, it'll take me a while. But I think those are my top 3 at the moment.
I didn't get the last one. What was it again?
April McLean. She's, I'll share. Hang on. Let me go onto that screen there and quickly find April if you're not signed up. Her stuff's great. She does a really good newsletter.
As Nicola is doing that, just an open question. If Susanna, Joanna, Karina, you have other questions, feel free to jump in.
See if that works. Hopefully that worked. But yes, sign up to her newsletter. It's great. Awesome. But yeah, I mean, there's so many. There's you can't move for great community content. There's a lot of it. I think community people are very generous with sharing their content and putting stuff out there. It almost becomes like a full-time job reading all the awesome community content and newsletters, doesn't it? But what a blessing, hey?
No, exactly. It's about how you curate your own feed to not feel like it's too noisy and just like picking up on something.
Yeah.
One of the trends you mentioned briefly is the community everywhere thing, which is, I would say, a big proponent of it is Richard Millington, who also spoke about it at the CMX Summit. Where do you stand about this trend, right? Like, I think people started using this as an expression, let's say 6 months ago, about how, community is, especially in light of platforms, and that's what Karina was mentioning. You know, community everywhere means it's cross-platform. It's about all touch points with the members. So at all stages of the experience, you know, community is there in a way to influence how you interact with your members. Some other people, I would say, on the other side of it would say, community everywhere, anytime, for everyone. It's like it dilutes the very concept of community management. And it's an audience. No, it's not a community for clear reasons. So I wonder where you stand on it, and what's your understanding of it?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard of the term, I actually felt a huge sense of relief, because when my first community role, which was at the taxi app, I didn't have a typical community platform like a Discord or a Circle or anything like that. I had a driver app, I had Facebook groups, I had a Twitter account, I had events. So I had all these different channels, but I wasn't typically doing community work. I was doing community everywhere. And a little bit of me had been saying in the back of my head, you know, there was that imposter syndrome kicking in, saying, you know, you weren't managing a big community platform. And I felt this relief, because I thought, well, that's what I was doing. I was building community, but across platforms, making sure there was consistent tone of voice, making sure I was listening to them and coming back to them and all these things. So I was very happy for that term, because I think it feeds into my skills of, you know, being a generalist and enjoying working across different channels. I mean, I think probably it's going to look different for different communities. For the one I'm building now, it's going to be really important that social and the community platform, for example, are totally hand in hand, and what that strategy is one strategy covering both, because, you know, that will work for that. But yeah, I think it depends on the platform. I think if it's more of a, I don't know, product support or customer care type of platform, perhaps it doesn't feel quite as relevant. Or yeah, there's tons of communities I have no idea about as well, like kind of gaming communities. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of clueless about those, or Web3 or something like that. I don't know how it applies to them, but for me, it made perfect sense.
Cool. I have a confession to make, Nicola. I'm considering joining a new community. I'm a bit of a compulsive community joiner. I think it's a problem we have, many of us in the
Agree.
field have. I know that you're part of the generalist world. I'm a big fan of Millie's content, so that's kind of what is maybe pulling me in. But maybe as a community use case, like you've been part of it, so can you tell us a little bit about what they do well? Because I know it's been growing like crazy. I see it more and more, but the view from the insider, what's it like in there, and what are the things that they do really well for members?
Yeah, definitely love. I mean, I absolutely love that community. I've learned a lot and had a lot of benefit from that community since I joined in June, I think it was. It was after meeting Millie at the Talkbase conference, and we got chatting, and I thought, I think I'm a generalist, but I'm not sure because I've always had these job titles, but can I still be a generalist? I've had these jobs. She was like, yeah, of course you can. But I think the amazing thing is that and this all comes from Millie and the amazing way she's built her personal brand and the way she puts herself out there so openly and honestly. But people in there are really generous and kind with their knowledge and their learnings. And mostly I'm a member of specialized communities where, I mean, most of them are communities, a couple of marketing communities. And the thing that I love about being in there is that I'm learning so much just from sometimes reading other people's conversations or reading what they've been up to, but it's super inspiring and it makes you realize that you have actually all this potential, and you can do all these things and learn about these things and give them a go. But yeah, I mean, there's events in there, there's AMAs with different members. There's what else is in generalist world?
Is it in-person event as well?
There are. I haven't attended an in-person event, but they do have them fairly regularly, actually, in various cities. So New York, and then in the UK as well. But there are lots of people in there from all around. It's incredibly global. There's people from almost every country, I think, in there. And just sharing all sorts of things, and you'll be inspired by something that you would never have come across before because you weren't in a room with such an amazing mix of people. I think that's what's so great about it.
Awesome. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to maybe give you the last word in the sense of what's coming up with you on the menoplan side, and if there's anything perhaps this group can help you with, and how the next few months are looking. What are your main challenges you're gonna try to overcome?
Yeah, well, thank you for listening to me talk for an hour. Pleasure, absolute pleasure. We just at Meno. My focus is really going to have to be on Menoplan because I'm in employee one, so it's just two of us working really hard at this, and we're in the launch phase now. And I think there's going to be lots of learning. I'm sure there's going to be lots of mistakes, lots of improving and growing as we go. So yeah, if you spot anything that I'm doing, I'm going to try and be better at being consistent on LinkedIn again, and I'll start talking about menopause as well as community and things like that. So yeah, just if you spot anything and you have feedback, ideas, or you like it, just let me know. I would super appreciate that. Always open to ideas and feedback, especially when you're working in a small team. You don't have, all these other people to bounce things off of actually. So it's nice to hear from external people, what they think about what you're up to, because you can get quite isolated and you think, well, we this is obvious to everybody else, but it's actually you two are working on it every day. So it's nice to get other opinions.
That's what community is for, and also building in public, right? I think if you can do it, if you're the other person building this project with you is open to it, I think there's nothing that speaks to people more than saying, like, look, you look behind the veal and you see how sausage is made, so to speak, and
like that analogy. Very
That's
German
really-
analogy.
Guilty. But no, that's I totally encourage you. And by the way, like, not sometimes I see you also comment a lot on LinkedIn, and I discover so many other cool sources. Like your posts are great, but just the comments as well, that your interaction with others is something where I take a lot from, actually. So just wanted to put it out there.
I actually have a post in my head that I was going to write about. Once you start connecting with people, you start to notice that other people that you know have connected with each other, and it's this nice effect of when you put your energy out there and when you talk about what you're interested in, you attract the right people, and then they meet each other, and it becomes this lovely ecosystem of really cool people all hanging out together, which I love.
Yeah, no, can't agree more. Thanks a lot, Nicola. I think this was great. Really enjoyed our conversation. And yeah, on behalf of everyone, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks,
Yeah, thank
everyone.
you.
And Thibaut, enjoy your
Thank you.
birthday celebrations for your little one today.
Thank you. We'll do.
Are you going to go do some water slides now?
Yes, exactly. Gotta show, like, here.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun.
About to
That
jump in
takes
the
me
water.
back. Takes me back. Have the best day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.